Do the Maimer in the Mamorim Melukotim in Chelik Beis. This is the 30th Maimer. This is the Maimer by Daber Elekim al Moshe Vayemer Elav Ani Hashem, which the Rebbe said on Chovdalet Tevis, which was on a Tuesday in the Parshas Va'era in Tovshin Lamed Beis. We'll start the Maimer, and as the Rebbe brings down in the note, Chavdalet Tevis, which is the yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe, and quoting from the Tzemach Tzedek, that on Motzi Shabbos of Shemois, on the 23rd day of Tevis, before the 24th of Tevis, about a half an hour into the 11th hour, like 11:30. So that is when Nishba Oren HaKodesh, the holy coffin, was taken into the above, was captured. Ma'or Yisrael, the luminary of the Yidden, Mashiach Hashem, the anointed of Hashem, in his Bakish Chulu, and he was requested up in Shamayim. And the specific three languages, Oren HaKodesh, the holy ark, or the holy, said the coffin, but the Oren is the holy ark, Ma'or Yisrael, the luminary of Israel, and Mashiach Hashem, which is Bina, Chochma, and Keser. These three level was explained as Bayer Barucha in the Fabrengen, and the Rebbe references here to Likutei Sichos Chelik Tezayin, Amud 33 and then in the next note it says that this was published in honor of the 24th day of Tevis in Tovshin Lamed Dalet. And the date that it was published, it says it was the 23rd day of Tevis, Tovshin Lamed Dalet. And then they added another letter to it, as it connects to Lag BaOmer, the festival of the Rashbi, which they put the notes where it was printed later on. Okay, so that's the Maimer, and now we'll go inside in the Maimer itself. So the Maimer starts with the Pasuk, Vidaber Elekim el Moshe, Vayemer Elav Ani Hashem. So the Elekim speaks to Moshe and says to him, you should know, I am Hashem, Ani Havaya. So that means, it implies that the advantage and the greatness is because I am Hashem. What is this that Hashem is saying, Ani Hashem? Also, the Psukim later on articulate this concept, this point, Ani Hashem, that the Eibishter says, Eiliv, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and I did not reveal to them with the name Hashem, but to you I revealed with the name Hashem. Umesayim. So the Pasuk concludes, Lochein Amor Libnei Yisrael, and therefore go say to Bnei Yisrael, Ani Havaya, I am Havaya. So v'yadu ahadiyukim bozeh mibal ha'hilula. So it's known what the Bal HaHilula, that is the Alter Rebbe's Hilula, which is Chav Dalet Tevis. So here's the Yukim that he asks on this particular Maimer, Ma'u Achidush Bani Hashem. So what is the novelty? What does it mean? Hashem says, I am Hashem. Shabazeh Maschil Hadibur, that's the opening statement. Vayemer Elav, Ani Hashem, I am Hashem. As he explains and continues the pasuk itself, Hachidush Bani Havaya, this novelty of Bani Havaya, Shahagam, Sheve'ero, Gam el Avram el Yitzchak ve'el Yaakov. Although I appeared also to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Hoyozeh Rag V'Keil Shaddai. That was only with the name of Keil Shaddai. Aval Shmi Havaya, but the name Havaya lo nodaiti, I had not been known to them with Havaya. So it seems like it's all about something about the Shem Havaya. What is it about the Shem Havaya which is so special, so unique? What is the Chiddush? Further, the Rebbe asks the question from the Alter Rebbe's question that the Rebbe brings down. The Alter Rebbe asks, who is greater? Is it greater Moshe, or are the others greater? Who is on a higher level? Because on one hand, it seems that Moshe got a higher level even more than the others. But on the other hand, we also know that the Eibishter said, I miss the forefathers who trusted me unlike you, Moshe Rabbeinu. Gam tzarich lahavim b'chlolus teichen ha'inyan. Also, we need to understand in general, in the idea of the Ve'era Lavrom Goymer Ushmi Havaya Loi Noidaiti Lahem. Says, I appeared to Avram, and they did not. I was not known with my name Havaya. My name Havaya, I was not known to them. Loi Noidaiti Lahem. So on one hand, this points to the advantage and the novelty in Moshe relative to the others. That it was specifically in the days of Moshe that the name of Havaya was revealed, as opposed to the forefathers, but the forefathers, it was not revealed and not known, grasped the name Havaya. So in that level, it seems that Moshe Rabbeinu has an advantage, has a novelty over the forefathers. But on the other hand, together with this, in the Medrash on this verse, and this concept, and this is also Huva Berashi Pirush Rashi ala Torah, which was brought down in the commentary of Rashi and the Torah. It says, Sha'omar HaKodesh Baruch Hu, Hashem says, Chaval al de Avdin v'loi mishtachin. On the same pasuk, you bring down, woe for those who have been gone, have lost, meaning they passed away, the ovis, and I cannot forget them because they trusted Hashem and they didn't question Hashem, and Moshe Rabbeinu questioned. Shava'era Lavrom El Yisrael El Yaakov Chulu. I appeared to Yaakov Veloy Hideru Achar Mitoisai. They did not question, they did not think. After my measures, what I'm doing, and you say, Chulu, why did you do bad to the people? You're questioning me. This seems to be like two opposite matters. These two things seems to be opposites. So that's a question right in the parsha. Who is greater? Are the others greater, or the forefathers, or Moshe Rabbeinu? But also, we have a very similar idea. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu is special because he's the seventh. Now, you can only be the seventh if there is first the first. So, on one hand, we say the seventh are dear, but on the other hand, we say you're the seventh to the first one, and we can find that Moshe Rabbeinu is only number 7. You're not 1. So, similar idea. Who is greater? Similar, we also need to understand in that which our sages of blessed memory say. This is brought down in the Maimer, which starts with the words in the year Hey Tovshin. As it pertains to Moshe, in which we say, Kol Hashvi'in Chavivi. we say that all the seventh are dear. Moshe Rabbeinu, we know, was the seventh generation, and therefore he is considered to be the dear one. The yesh was davar v'fuchoi. So we have here a item, and it's paradox, and the opposite. There is like two sides. When we say that the seventh are dear, so we're saying that this is dear, that it's more dear than all those that preceded him. So that would make Moshe the one who's the most favorable one. But at the same time, we also say, since the special dearness of Moshe comes because he's the seventh, so from that we understand, and as explained in that mimer of above, what makes him dear? Because he is seven to the first. So in other words, that he follows the first one. So that means that the first one is the one that gives the seventh one his specialty. So in a sense, we're saying that the first one has an advantage because he's the seventh to the first. And we actually find so in the Medrash that Hashem said to Moshe, you can't compare yourself to Abraham, that he wasn't as the high level as Abraham. Befrat, lifi divrei HaMedrash, especially according to the word of the Medrash. Hamuv Abba Maimer Shom, which is brought down in the Maimer there. The Beshosh, Shabikish Moshe Inyan Sheshayich Ligdoilim, that when Moshe Rabbeinu seeked something which belongs to people who are great, Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so Hashem says to Moshe, B'mokim gedolim al tamid, in a place of the great, don't stand. You're not there. You're not at that level with the gedolim. So b'mokim gedolim. So who is the place of the great where Hashem says you can't stay? Koy al Avram. That goes on Avram. That Avram is the great. So in this case, we see Avram is greater than Moshe. So what does this all mean? Yuvan Bahagdim. So we'll understand this by introducing the Hine Yadu HaMaimer Shel Bal HaHilula. It's known, the Maimer of the Bal HaHilula, that's the Alter Rebbe's Maimer in Torah Eir in Parshas Shmos. And also, V'gam Be'echod HaBichlach Sheyotzu L'Achrono, one of the books of Chassidus that have lately been redeemed, L'Chedus, that went out to freedom in Hashivya from captivity. They were able to rescue and bring from Poland, from other places. They brought the holy books that were kept in captivity, and they were that point freed. And there's the Maimer Divrei Maschil Lahavi in Habiyur, that over there the Maimer begins to understand the explanation by Maimer Azal, how our sages of blessed memory explain Al HaPosik. The Posik is in Shir HaShirim. The Shir HaShirim in Perik Vav, Posik Chestes. So over there it says that Shishim Heima Malachis, that 60 are the Malachis. Talks about the various different levels. You have queens. Those are going to be, the Gemara is going to touch them all, referencing the different parts of Torah. You have Melachis, and then you have Ushmoinim, 80 are Pilakshim, those are the concubine women. The Alomes, maidens, unmarried, Ein Mispar, there is no number, more than, so there's 60 queens and 80 concubine and no Alomes. But Achas he Yoinosi Tamosi, my pigeon, my complete one, is just one. And Achas, as he's going to explain, this is for Knesset Yisrael. Achas hi li'imo, bara hi liyoladeto. That's the pasuk. She is one to her mother, and she is clear to the one who gave birth to her. That's the Pashto Pshat. So our sages explain what do these numbers represent. The Shishim Elohim Malachis, the 60 Malachis, queens, Elu Shishim Mesechtus. Those refer to the 60 tractates. We have 60 tractates in the Talmud. Basically, we'll see in the Mishnah. In the Mishnah, basically, there's 6 orders, and if you multiply 6 times 10, it'll be 60. So there's 6 orders. That represents the tractates. That's the Mishnah. Shmoinim Pilakshim, when we talk about the concubine Elu Habraises, those are the Braises. The Braises aren't at the level of Mishnah as the Masechta, they're outside, just as concubine women are not the actual wife, but they're like outside of the family, and that's the Braises, because the Braises were also taught outside of the main Beis Medrash. V'alomes in Misper, what are the endless number of maiden? That's Elu HaHalachas. That represents the laws of we have in the Talmuds, all the different halachas. Shehein Meimres HaMeroim, those are the sayings of the Ameroim. So he explains that Maimer, and then the pasuk concludes, Messiahim Shekol Zeh, that all those learnings Einei Bedoima Lahavin Lebedoima Laachas Hiyanosi, that it all does not compare to the one who is my Yainosi, my pigeon, my love, Barahi Limo. This is not Lahavin Zeh. So understand this, that we say that. But Gam Lahavin Maimer Azal, also to understand the saying of our sages of blessed memory. They say that Godel Talmud, what makes the study so great, Shemevi Lidei Maisa, that it brings you to action. In other words, if you need to do a mitzvah, how are you gonna know how to do the mitzvah? So you got to learn. If you learn, then that makes learning great. But what about those laws that are not practical and applicable into action? And yet we still find that there is a tremendous give and take in these laws as well. There's Torah over there. There's lots of Torah. We find many laws have no connection to practical action. Especially according to that which is explained in the Kutras Achron and Tanya, that there is certain aspects in Torah they never were and they never will be. So not only is it not practical right now, but over there it's explained there's laws that never were and never will be. And yet, Yeshnon halachos v'shakal v'tarei binyonim elu. There's still laws and give and take in these matters. So if the whole reason of learning Torah is because it brings Torah's greatness, it brings the Maisa, in this case it doesn't bring to the Maisa. The Rebbe is going to explain that when it brings to the Maisa means that it brings to the Birurim in the Maisa in the world that comes through the study of the Torah, that brings down the sorting out and the refinement and makes the world, the Maisa, into a higher level. So explains over there, Behagdem HaYedua, but first introducing, that's what we know, Shatach Lisabriya, Hilasis Yisbarach Dir Betachtoin. That the ultimate purpose of creation is to make for Hashem blessed a dwelling place over here in the lower world. Shadirav de betachtoinim. How do we make Hashem's dwelling place over here? We need to make a dwelling place. How do we make it? Nasa that comes al yidei shishim melochis ushmeinim pelakshim v'alomes mispar, through the 60 queens, 60 mesechtas, through the 80 pelakshim, through the brises, and through the aloches. That's we make the Eibush there dwell with. B'chlolu, generally speaking, al yidei ha Torah, through Torah we create this bit of Torah. Shal yidei eisek ha Torah, when a person occupies in Torah, he learns the halacha. This is tohir. This is kosher. That's kosher. That's mutter permissible. That way, the item gets sorted out. So when you learn about and you say something is tohir, kosher, and mutter, that sorts it out. And then through the service of a yid later on, when he does the actual, when he uses the toyer, kosher, and mutter, he uses them, is mizdachech u'misala hadover, then the item is refined and is elevated until it becomes a dwelling place for him. The Torah refines it, it's misbared, and then it's mizdachech through the avodah of the yid, and that makes the dwelling place. So we have two parts in a dwelling place. First, it needs to be nice vessel, nice furnishing, which is a say toif. That's the part to do good, the positive. So likewise, we also need to remove those matters which are not desirable. This is the idea, to stay away from evil. So you have do mitzvahs and stay away from bad. Like in a dwelling place, you need nice furnishing, but you also need to remove all dirt and all not desirable matters from the house. And this is the Torah as it is in the level, in the measure, in the line, when it lines up with Gevura. Shahapsak din, the ruling of the halacha hu lehepech mitoher kosher umuter. That's when it is the contrary. Sometimes the Rebbe doesn't say it directly. Tomei, treif, and osur. That would be the Rebbe uses the opposite of clean, kosher, and mutter to say that this is not desirable. This does not belong in the dira of the Eberster. That is because that is not fitting to be a vessel for godliness. A dwelling place for him, blessed, in the lower worlds, and that's why the ruling is that it's not okay. So you have Asay Toiv, and then you have the Sur Meirah to rule what's not acceptable. And this is the idea. Shishim Heima Meloches, the 60 Meloches, that's Shishim Mesechtes. Those are the 60 tractates. Shadavke b'Torah Shabal Peh. The tractates that we learn, that's all the oral Torah. That's not the Chumash or the Torah Shabiksav. This is the oral Torah. Because from the Chumash itself, you don't have the sorting out the will of Hashem. The sorting out of the will of Hashem, the rulings come in Torah Shabal Peh in the Mishnah. Shadavke b'Torah Shabal Peh, specifically in the oral Torah, over there we sort out what is the supreme will, so that we know the matters which are we should stay away from the bad and do good. The oral Torah generally divides into 6. Those are the 6 orders of the Mishnah. Shehein Hashisha Sidrei Mishnah. Those are the 6 orders of the Mishnah. The kol echad, and each one of the 6 kolu ma'asara is included of 10. That's how we get 60. Shemezeh nase shishim heimo meloches. From this becomes the 60 queens. Uma shenikra b'shem meloches. Why do we call them meloches? We call them queens, and the other ones we call pilakshim. We call them concubine. Because like the difference between the queen is always with the king, they're inside, and the concubine, the brais, is the outside. Why do we call it with the name Elochisu? Mishnah Elakusu Begili. When we do the Mishnah over there, godliness is open. This is like by the queen. The king goes to her, to his queen, openly. It's not a hidden act, going to the queen. And it's also in a set way. So that's where the revelation in the Mishnah is in an open way. And this is another connection, the Rebbe says, to a home, because that's where the king visitors and the Dira B'Tachtoinim, Shezeu Shayches, Inyan HaMishnah Lebais. The Rebbe says this is the connection from the Mishnah to the Beis Hamikdash. This idea of bayis, and that it's a home, that it's open and it's a revealed way, is connected to the time of the Beis Hamikdash, which the beginning of the Mishnah is more in the Beis Hamikdash versus the Gemara, which is done in Golus. Shezeu Shayches Inyan HaMishnah Lebayis. That is the connection from the Mishnah to a home, which is Lahazman Shebeis Hamikdash Oyakayim, to the time of the Beis Hamikdash. The Mishnah is connected to the Beis Hamikdash when it was existent. Dagam, although Shesidur HaMishnah V'Siyuma, even though the organizing the Mishnah and completion, Hoya Al Dei Rabbeinu HaKodesh, that took place through our holy Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda Nossi Shohoya Achar Zman HaBayis. He was after the time of the Beis Hamikdash. So we're saying here that the Mishnah belongs to, yes, the statements of the Tanoim, a lot of them were in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, but the organizing of the Mishnah itself took place in the days of Rebbe, which was after the time of the Beis Hamikdash. But Hare Omer Razal, but the Gemara in Shabbos that Rebbe brings down over here says that when it discusses the pasuk in Rus over there, so the pasuk says that she had left over, Batoisar Bimei Rebbe, the leftover from the previous, as the pasuk is translated during the Gemara in Shabbos, which took place in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, Batoisar, that was left over for she ate from the food that they brought her. The Gemara says Bimei Rebbe. The leftover days Rebbe, she made Rebbe, Hare Heim HaHemshech Lazman Shebeis Hamikdash Oyakayim. So that means the days of Rebbe's are a continuation to the time that the Beis Hamikdash was in existence. So therefore, the Mishnah is connected to the time of the Bayis, because that's where they called the queen, because that's where the king goes regularly, because this is his home. But then you have Ushmoini Pilakshim Elu Braises. The 80 Pilakshim, the concubine, refers to the Braises. The Braisa who Meloshin Bar V'chutz. Braisa comes from the language of Bar, on the outside. The Lefish Bizman Hahu Hoyayin Hagolus. Because in the time of the Braises, we were in exile. Golinu Me'artzenu. We have been exiled from our land. Inyan bar v'chutz, which is the idea of outside, bar and outside, which is the time of Golus. We're not in our land. Hinegam gilui harotzin begila lekus shahoya b'toira bazmanahu. So also, the revelation of Hashem's will and the revelation of godliness that was in Torah at that time was only pilakshim. was only Braisa. Was not as clear, not sorted out so much. That's why we call it with the name of Pilegesh. And then it goes even further. So you have the Melachim, the Malchus, you have the Pilakshim, and then it goes even further. V'alomis in Mispar, the endless amount of alomis. Elu ha'aloches she'em membres ha'maroim. Those are the halachas which are the saying of the Amaroim. U'bazen nichlal, and in that is included kol ma she'talmid vosid osid l'chadish. In the saying, that generally is what the Amaroim say, but that also includes any item that a studious student is destined to come up with. That also is part of this Halomis and Mispar. Ubefrat Talmud Babli, and especially if you compare the Talmudim, we'll talk about specifically the Babylonian Talmud is called exile. She'olav Nemar, with regards to the Talmud Babli, it is said B'machshakim Hoshivani, when the pasuk says in Eicha that Hashem placed me in the dark, Eicha Gimel pasuk Vav. So the Gemara says in Sanhedrin that refers to the Talmud Babli versus the Talmud Yerushalmi, which is more clear. But the Babylonian Talmud is considered Machshakim, is considered to be darkness. Shehi HaTorah Shebizman Hagolus Davke. That is the Torah which is in the time of exile, Davke specifically, beyond just the Pilakshim, the Braises, but this is specifically in exile. V'ad Golus Achron, until this latest exile that we're in now. V'nikra Alomes, and that is called Alomes because Meloshen Helem V'Hester. That comes from the Loshen of block and obscure. Shahelem V'Hester Shabohem, the obscurity, the block, which is in the level of Torah that we learn in the Golus, which is even more than it was the Braises. That's why this is Alomis, this is Helem, this is blocked and obscure. But on the other hand, we say Alomis ein mispar. There is endless. That Dafke Bohem, it is Dafke in them. Yeshna inyan ha'ein mispar. There is this concept of no numbers. Hayideyem nase tachlis habirur. Through them becomes the ultimate sorting out. Va'ad la'ofen dein mispar, until it becomes that there is no number. V'zehu Hagdama Lazman de Hoya Mispar B'nai Yisrael Asher Lo Yisofer. This is the introduction to the time in where the number of the B'nai Yisrael will be that won't be counted, which is the time that is the prophecy in Hosea, which is talking about in the future. We start off with these halachas that are in Mispar, and from there you'll get to the higher level. There's another piece. V'hinei shal yidei zeh, although through this na'inyan ha'Torah nasa dira lo yisbarach. So through the Torah we make a dwelling place for Hashem, and we have this endless halachas and the various different ways in which we make the dira for Hashem. It still needs to be the level of one. Achasi, the pasuk continues. Achasi yonosi, you still need the level of one. B'chdei lechaber haTorah im noisen haTorah. We have to connect the Torah with the one that gave the Torah. That's the level of achas, the level of a yid, the one who learns the Torah, the level of achas, in order to take the Torah and connect it with the one who gave the Torah, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shezehu Al yidei shabochar banu mikol ha'amim, through the fact that Hashem chose us of all the nations. V'nosan lanu as Torah, and He gave us the Torah. So, giving us the Torah gives us sort of authority on the Torah to rule. Sha'oz havaya imoi sha'alocha k'moise b'chol mokem. It says that havaya imoi, when the pasuk says havaya imoi in Shmuel Aleph, we say that the Gemara says there that means that, what does it mean? Hashem is with him, that the laws remains like him, and the Yid, the rules the Torah. So how do you connect that? You need to have the davening. That, for that you need the service of davening. That way we create the level of achas, for that connection to be made. You say Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad, and davening, and then you get from Echad, you become the level of achas. The beginning of the davening, Hibechinas Yoinosi. Translates now the posik, Achasi Yoinosi Tamosi, but how it works in the level of the davening. So what's the level of Yoinosi? Pigeon. One is my pigeon. The pigeon, we know, Shazau Kameshakosu, Einecha Yoinim, like your eyes are like the pigeons. The pigeons look at each other in a way of gaze, like in constant love for each other. So the idea of a necha yoinim yoinosi is to gaze and to love and to appreciate, reflect on Hashem. Shezou k'meshikos ve'necha yoinim v'hainu ha'hizboinenus. That is the reflection, Shema, which is, we say Shema. Shema means listen, reflect. Vahistaklus, and the gazing. Shabikriyas Shema, which is in the reading of the Shema. Shalifnei hatfila, which is before the Yoinosi comes, before you actually start the davening, which is the Shemoneh Esrei. That's the Amida, the 18 brachas. So that comes first, is Achasi, first Yoinosi. But it even starts beforehand. Even before the Shema B'birchas, Kriya Shema, when you make the blessings of the Shema that precede and the reading of the Shema, and in the verses of song, that he reflects and he gazes. That is the idea of a nechojin, to the extent Shenase Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, till it becomes Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The Shema, because this is the lead up, the Shema, the Psukei de Zimra, the meditation, the reflection, the mistakel, which is a nechayonim, like the pigeons, but then you bring it, then you come through that introduction to Shema Yisrael. Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. What is Shema? Shema Ugamki, not only listen, but Shema means gather up, gather together. Ugam Loshin Asifa V'Kibbutz. Brings down sometimes the pasuk in Shmuel, I believe, that word Shema means to gather and to collect together, which means Shema Kabetz Kol Inyonov. You gather together all of your matters. V'naseh. So Shema Yisrael, gather everything together, and you receive Mahashem Elokeinu. From Hashem Elokeinu Shu Inyan B'chinas Achas. That is the level of Achas. So all your different matters, what you have, you gather them and you get from Hashem Elokeinu, so you become one. Shu Inyan B'chinas Achas. Ba'ad shemegia lebechinas b'chol me'idecho, until then you reach the level of me'idecho, shu'inyan hamsiras nefesh, which is the concept of self-sacrifice. So the achas is the level of making all your matters into one, because becoming a recipient of Hashem Elokeinu until you reach Mesiras Nefesh. So through the level of achas, one, through the enosi, through the reflection, achas enosi tamosi, nase tamosi, meloshin tmimus ushlemus, that makes it wholesome, completes. Shepoyel hashlemus, that you impact wholesomeness, which means wholesomeness becomes when you fulfill the mission, the intent of making a dira b'tachtonim. Shememali, what is the completion and wholesome? That you fulfill the mission of making this world a dira b'tachtonim. Shememali, because we needed the tefillah to come together, the achas together with the limud HaTorah that we did, that brought down the sorting out. And through the mitzvahs we elevated, but we needed the tefillah to bring about the union of achas, and that brings the tmimus, the shleimus, that shememali v'nishlam harotzin v'atayva, that you fulfill and you complete the will and the desire. The nesava kodesh baruch hu liyis lo yisbarach dir b'tachtonim, that Hashem wanted to have the dwelling place in the tachtonim. So that fulfills it, because you start off shezeu alidei haTorah. That is through the Torah. So the Torah, when you learn the Torah, you make mutter and pasul, the different levels of what can be sorted out. You're filling up the rooms, the dira of the Eibishter. And then through the davening that goes along, you bring about the shlem, you fulfill that desire, which is through the Torah. All the above mentioned level. And there's also the second interpretation in the word tamosi, that is te'omosi. You become like my twin, which basically means shenase shutaf la'kodesh baruch hu b'maisa bereishis. You become a partner to Hashem in the act of creation, and that partnership takes place through the Yids v'chol ha'boyurim ha'mevurim ba'adrushim al ha'posik b'Torah oir u'b'lekut Torah shirashim bal ha'ilula. You become like a twin, you become a partner, because here you've accomplished that change around in the world and made the dira b'tachtonim. U'misayim, and then the final, in the verse, he concludes, achas hi li'ima bara hi li'yuladata, which the Rebbe does not explain over here. He says finishes in the psukim, she's one to her mother, clear to the one who gave birth, kibavur b'drushmanal, as explained in the above drushim. Okay.